Understanding rebirth in Buddhism. Rebirth, or punabhava, is a central concept in Buddhism, describing the continuity of existence without the presence of a permanent self or soul. Unlike reincarnation, which assumes an eternal essence moving from body to body, rebirth is a dynamic process, a flow of consciousness shaped by cause and effect. This process is best understood through dependent origination, paticca-samuppada, which explains that all things arise due to interconnected conditions. It is like a vast web where each strand is linked to the others. When one strand shifts, it affects the entire structure. This interdependence forms the foundation of Buddhist thought on existence. People often believe in a fixed identity, a self that remains unchanged. Buddhism offers a different perspective. It teaches that what we consider the self is merely a stream of consciousness, citta santana, not a single entity, but a sequence of momentary mental events. This stream consists of citta, awareness, cetasikas, mental factors shaping experience, such as emotions and intentions, vijnana, cognition, recognizing objects and forming perceptions. Like waves in an ocean, these components rise and fall, constantly changing. Our actions, thoughts, and words generate karma, which influences future experiences. The role of karma is not a system of reward and punishment, but a natural law of cause and effect. Every intentional act leaves an imprint in the mind, shaping future tendencies. For example, imagine a person who has developed a habit of resentment and criticism. Over time, this mental conditioning reinforces suffering, creating cycles of negativity. But through awareness and conscious effort, this person can cultivate kindness, patience, and compassion, gradually transforming their karmic tendencies. This demonstrates a core Buddhist teaching. There is no fixed self carrying karma, only a pattern of causes and conditions shaping experience. Anatta, the illusion of self. One of the most profound Buddhist insights is anatta, or not self. The self is not a permanent entity. It is a conceptual illusion, a collection of fleeting experiences. The Buddha taught that there is no soul being reborn. Instead, what continues is the momentum of thoughts, actions, and conditions, a process, not a person. This misunderstanding of I is a major cause of suffering. Clinging to a false sense of identity leads to attachment, fear, and dissatisfaction. By understanding anatta, we free ourselves from illusions and move toward liberation. How rebirth shapes our present life. Understanding rebirth is not just about the afterlife. It directly affects how we live now. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can observe the flow of consciousness, seeing how it is shaped by past actions. This direct experience allows us to break free from habitual patterns of suffering and live with greater clarity. Buddhism teaches that true freedom comes from recognizing reality as it is, not as a fixed self, but as an ever-changing flow. Reincarnation in other traditions. The idea of life continuing beyond death is widespread across spiritual traditions, but interpretations differ significantly. Most non-Buddhist traditions assume a permanent soul or essence that moves through multiple lifetimes. Hinduism and the Atman. In early Hindu thought, Atman is the eternal, unchanging essence of an individual, a spark of the divine. Reincarnation is the process by which the Atman transmigrates from one body to another, driven by karma. The ultimate goal is moksha, or liberation from samsara, the cycle of birth and death, achieved through spiritual knowledge, devotion, and virtuous actions. Greek philosophy and the immortal soul. Plato described the soul as an eternal, pre-existing entity that undergoes multiple incarnations. According to him, the soul is initially pure, but becomes entangled in the material world. Through philosophy and wisdom, it can regain its original state of enlightenment. Sikhism and the journey of the Atma. Sikhism also holds a belief in reincarnation, with the Atma, soul, moving through multiple lives. Mukti, liberation, occurs when the soul merges with the divine, ending the cycle of birth and death. This is achieved through devotion, meditation, and selfless service. While these traditions differ in their specifics, they share a common thread: a belief in a permanent soul that continues its journey toward purification or union with the divine. The fundamental difference. Buddhism challenges the notion of a permanent soul. Instead of an unchanging entity, it teaches that only a flow of experiences and tendencies continues. There is no fixed identity, only an ongoing process of cause and effect. This distinction is key in understanding the Buddhist view of rebirth versus reincarnation. By realizing that there is no self to cling to, one can break free from suffering and experience true liberation. Key differences between rebirth and reincarnation. Buddhist teachings, particularly anatta, no self, completely reject the idea of a permanent, unchanging self. Instead, Buddhism presents an entirely different view of continuity, one based on impermanence and interdependent processes. This distinction is crucial in understanding rebirth. Unlike traditions that posit a fixed soul moving through lifetimes, Buddhism teaches that what continues is not a self, but a stream of consciousness, a sequence of ever-changing mental and physical processes conditioned by causes and actions. This consciousness is not a lasting entity, but a dynamic flux, much like a flame lighting another flame, connected, yet never the same. The nature of suffering and liberation. The understanding of rebirth and self deeply impacts the Buddhist path to liberation. In traditions that believe in a permanent soul, suffering is often seen as a result of entanglement with the material world, or as a karmic debt to be purified across lifetimes. The goal is to cleanse the soul through righteous deeds, devotion, and divine union. In Buddhism, however, suffering arises from clinging to the illusion of a permanent self. The path to liberation is not about purifying a soul, but transcending attachment by realizing that the self is an illusion. Through wisdom and practice, we learn to let go of I and mine, dissolving the causes of suffering. Continuity. Without a permanent self, Buddhist analysis of mental formations, sankharas, explains how continuity unfolds. Each moment of consciousness is conditioned by past experiences. These mental tendencies and karmic imprints shape future experiences, but they do not belong to a single, lasting self. The Milinda Panha uses the analogy of a flame passed from one lamp to another. It is not the same flame, but there is a connection. Similarly, the Pottapada Sutta compares rebirth to a mango tree. A seed gives rise to a tree, which then bears fruit, and within that fruit is another seed. There is continuity, but no fixed essence that transfers. Thus, the key difference between rebirth and reincarnation lies in how continuity is understood. Reincarnation assumes a fixed soul moving through lifetimes. while rebirth describes an unfolding process without a permanent self. Understanding the process of death and rebirth in Buddhism, death and rebirth are not about a soul entering a new body. Instead, they mark the end of one experience and the arising of another, driven by karmic energy. The moment of death is marked by the kuti-citta, final moment of consciousness. This is followed by the patisandhi-citta, linking consciousness, which conditions the next existence. This transition is not random. It is shaped by past karma, determining where and how rebirth occurs. Since the five aggregates, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, are impermanent, they dissolve at death. What remains is the karmic potential that conditions the next experience. This is not a transfer of identity, but a continuation of cause and effect. Realms of rebirth. The Buddha described different realms of existence, not as physical places, but as states of being shaped by karma. These are generally divided into the realm of sense. Desire includes hell realms, intense suffering, animal realms, instinct-driven existence, hungry ghost realms, endless craving, and human existence, a balance of suffering and opportunity. The realm of form. Higher meditative states where beings experience joy through concentration and mindfulness. The formless realm. The highest level of meditative absorption, where consciousness is detached from the body, existing in pure awareness. Understanding these realms reveals how mental states, karma, and perception shape future experiences. Facing death with wisdom. By observing thoughts, emotions, and habits, we see how our mind conditions future experiences. Impermanence continues beyond death, and understanding this can help dissolve the fear of dying. Through mindfulness and wisdom, we prepare for transition without attachment. Modern understanding and daily practice. Buddhist rebirth is not just a theory, it has profound practical implications. While modern science has yet to fully understand consciousness, it increasingly acknowledges the interdependence of mind and body, a core principle in Buddhism. The importance of ethical living. Rebirth is not about seeking a better next life, but about cultivating wisdom, compassion, and ethical conduct now. Understanding cause and effect, karma, encourages responsibility, not out of fear, but out of a desire to shape a more awakened existence. Buddhist insights on impermanence and no-self are not abstract. They can be experienced directly through meditation. Observing thoughts and feelings in real time reveals their transient nature, helping us let go of attachments and find inner peace. Living in the present. While stories of past life memory can be intriguing, the Buddha emphasized practicality over speculation. The Malunkyaputta Sutta illustrates this. When a monk asked the Buddha about the nature of the afterlife, the Buddha redirected him to focus on overcoming suffering here and now. This is the essence of Buddhist practice, not preparing for another life, but transforming our experience in the present. Applying rebirth to daily life. Recognizing impermanence in daily thoughts, emotions, and experiences helps us see rebirth in action. Practicing mindfulness and ethical living cultivates positive karmic conditions. Meditation and self-reflection allow direct insight into the changing nature of consciousness. The path to freedom. Buddhist practice is not about hoping for a better future. It is about awakening here and now. Rebirth is not just about what happens after death, but about how we engage with reality every moment. By understanding impermanence, karma, and no self, we dissolve false attachments and move toward genuine freedom. Thus, the Buddhist view of rebirth provides a profound framework for understanding existence, not as a cycle of fixed identities, but as an ever-changing stream of experience, shaped by wisdom, compassion, and mindful action.